The first scream came from the nurse, the second came from the machine, and the third never left Maya Brooks' throat, because her 3-year-old daughter was lying on the chest of a man every doctor in that hospital had already declared brain dead. His name was Han Tae-jun. To most of Seoul, he was not just a man, he was the Winter Dragon. But at 2:43 in the morning, inside room 1207 of Han River Mercy Medical Center, he did something no dead man was supposed to do. His tattooed fingers moved. First, it was barely anything. A twitch, a mistake maybe. Then his hand slowly rose from the white hospital blanket toward the sick little girl, resting on his chest. Not toward the doctors, not toward the armed guards, not toward the machine screaming beside him, toward the child. As if even in death, Han Tae-jun knew she needed protection. But before anyone could understand why a child woke a man the world had already buried, they had to understand the woman nobody noticed. Maya Brooks was not rich, she was not powerful, she did not own a company. She did not command soldiers. She did not wear designer clothes into private hospital suites. She cleaned them. Every night, after the wealthy visitors left, after the doctors stopped pretending to feel anything, after important people whispered outside closed doors and went home. Maya pushed her cleaning cart through the quiet private wing. She wiped fingerprints off glass walls, emptied bins beside expensive flower arrangements, mopped floors that reflected shoes worth more than her monthly rent, and most people never looked at her twice. If you have ever been ignored by people who thought your position made you small, write this in the comments. They didn't see my heart. Because this story is about the kind of person the world walks past, until the moment their kindness becomes the only thing that can save a life. And before we go deeper, tell me where you are watching from tonight. Because stories like this remind us that people are fighting silent battles everywhere. And stay with me, because what happened in room 1207 did not begin with a miracle. It began with betrayal. Seoul looked beautiful in the rain. Neon signs shimmered on wet roads. Glass towers glowed above the Han River. Taxis moved like little yellow sparks through the night. From a distance, the city looked clean, bright, untouchable. But beneath that polished city, another Seoul existed, a city of locked rooms, private convoys, hidden debts, men who smiled in public and destroyed each other in silence. And on one rainy Thursday night, at exactly 11:18 p.m., a line of black luxury cars moved toward the Incheon docks. No one on the street knew what was about to happen there. No one saw the men waiting in the shadows. No one saw the cameras that had been turned away. No one knew that before sunrise, one of the most feared men in Korea would be lying in a hospital bed, while another man prepared to inherit everything he owned. Han Tae-jun stepped out of the black sedan like the rain had been waiting for him. He was 42, tall, lean, pale, terrifyingly handsome in a way that made people stare once, then look away quickly. His black hair was brushed back from a face too sharp to look gentle. His jaw looked carved. His cheekbones caught the dark light. His eyes were dark, quiet, almost empty. But the thing people remembered most was the tattoo. A black dragon curled along the side of his neck, its mouth stopping just beneath his jaw. More ink disappeared beneath his collar. Old Korean characters, blaves, broken crowns, symbols of loyalty and blood debt. Even his hands were tattooed. Beautiful hands, dangerous hands. Hands that had signed contracts, broken enemies, and protected people who never knew his name. They called him the Winter Dragon because he did not need to shout. When Han Tae-jun entered a room, the temperature changed. But before the dragon, there was a boy. A hungry boy in Busan who learned too early that poverty had a sound. Coins dropping on a wooden table, rain leaking through a bad roof. A mother whispering, "I'll pay soon," to men who never believed her. Tae-jun was only 10 when he watched a loan shark shove his mother to the floor. That night, something inside the boy went quiet. He did not cry. He did not run. He picked up a broken bottle with trembling fingers and stood between his mother and the man who had come to hurt her. The bottle shook in his hand. His knees shook too, but he did not move aside. That was not the night Han Tae-jun became brave. It was the night he became necessary. and necessary boys do not always grow into gentle men. Sometimes they grow into weapons. Standing behind Tae-jun at the docks was Park Do-yun, his second in command, his most trusted man, the one who called him brother in front of others. Do-yun was polished, calm, elegant, always dressed in dark tailored suits, always smiling at the right time, always knowing when to lower his eyes and when to offer advice. To outsiders he looked loyal. To Tae-jun's enemies he looked harmless. But some smiles are not kindness. Some smiles are locked doors. And when Tae-jun turned his back, Do-yun's smile disappeared so quickly. It was as if it had never belonged to his face. That was the first sign. But by then, it was already too late. At 11:18 p.m., the dock lights went out. One by one, the rain kept falling, the engines kept humming, but the yard became too quiet. Tae-jun stopped walking. He knew silence. He had survived too much not to hear danger inside it. Then came the attack. Fast, clean, planned by someone who knew exactly where he would stand, where his guards would look, and which camera would fail. Tae-jun staggered in the rain. His coat dragged against wet pavement. His tattooed hand reached for balance, and when he fell, the arms that caught him belonged to Park Do-yun. For 1 second, Tae-jun thought his brother had come to save him. Then Do-yun leaned close to his ear. His voice was soft, almost tender, and he whispered the last words Tae-jun heard before the darkness swallowed him. "You should have stayed a legend." By morning, the winter dragon was no longer standing in the rain. He was lying in room 1207, a private hospital suite so expensive it looked less like a sick room and more like a place where powerful people came to hide weakness. Machines breathed around him. Blue lights moved across his face. The dragon tattoo on his neck looked darker against his pale skin. His tattooed hands, the same hands that once made grown men afraid, lay still on the white blanket. Then the report came. Brain dead. Official. Signed, stamped, final. But there was one problem. The time on that report did not match the time someone had entered the room. And the first person who would notice it was not a doctor, not a lawyer, not a bodyguard. It was the cleaner. Maya Brooks worked nights because nights asked fewer questions. She was 33 years old, Black American, from Baltimore, and far away from every place that had once felt like home. Seoul had not been kind to her. Her husband, Marcus, had died in a construction accident. The settlement had been delayed. The bills had not. And her daughter, Lily, had lungs that turned every cough into a prayer. So Maya cleaned private hospital rooms while powerful people slept. She mopped around luxury shoes, emptied bins beside expensive flowers, wiped fingerprints from glass doors she was never meant to enter as a guest. But room 1207 was different, because Han Tae-jun was always alone. No wife, no child, no real friend, only machines, guards, and people whispering about power outside his door. So Maya did something foolish, something kind. She talked to him. She told him about the rain, about Lily, about how hard it was to keep going when the world treated you like you were already invisible. And even though he never answered, Maya kept speaking, because silence, she believed, did not make a person less human. At home, Maya's whole world fit inside one small basement room. A thin mattress, a weak heater, laundry hanging from a line near a damp wall, a small cup on the floor, and Lily, her 3-year-old daughter with soft curls, bright eyes, and a purple stuffed elephant named Benny. Lily was my kind of child who smiled even when she was tired. The kind who whispered thank you for medicine that tasted bitter. The kind who held her mother's hand like she understood they only had each other. But lately, her breathing had changed. At first, it was just a cough, then a wheeze. Then the kind of silence between breaths that made Maya sit up at night and count every rise of her daughter's chest. Maya had survived grief. She had survived debt. She had survived being invisible in a city that did not care whether she broke. But nothing frightened her like Lily struggling to breathe. Because Lily was not just her daughter. Lily was the last warm thing left in Maya's life. The next night, Maya returned to room 1207. The hallway was empty. The private wing was quiet. Only the soft beeping of machines waited behind the door. Maya pushed her cleaning cart inside and looked at Han Tae-jun lying beneath the white blanket. He looked dead. Everyone said he was. But Maya could not treat him that way. She dipped her cloth into the cleaning solution, wiped the chrome bed rail, then said softly, "It rained again tonight, no answer." Of course, no answer. "Still," she continued, "Lily hates thunder. She pretends she doesn't, but she always holds Benny tighter." The machines blinked. Tae-jun did not move. Maya gave a tired little smile. "You don't have to answer. I'm going to talk anyway." She did not know that kindness could enter places medicine could not reach. She did not know that somewhere beneath the silence, something in Han Tae-jun might still be listening. Nurse Yoon Hae-in noticed. She was young, soft-spoken, gentle in the way tired families trusted. She checked Tae-jun's machines, adjusted the sheets, smiled politely at Maya. "You know," she said one night, "you don't have to speak to him." Maya lowered her eyes. "I know." Hae-in's voice stayed kind. "He cannot hear you." Maya looked at Tae-jun's still hand, then back at the nurse. "Maybe not." A small silence passed between them. Then Maya said, "But I can hear myself. And I don't want to become the kind of person who talks about someone like they are already gone." Hae-in did not answer. For a moment, something like guilt moved across her face. Then her phone buzzed. She turned slightly. Just enough to hide the screen. Maya noticed, not because she was suspicious by nature, but because invisible people learn to notice what powerful people ignore. Later, outside room 1207, Hae-in stood alone in the hallway. Her fingers trembled over her phone. The message she sent was short, but it was enough. The next evening, Park Do-yeon came to room 1207 carrying white orchids. They were elegant, expensive, perfect, the kind of flowers people bring when they want grief to look clean. He placed them beside Tae-jun's bed, adjusted the silver ribbon, then bowed his head like a loyal brother mourning a fallen king. "You always hated flowers," Do-yeon whispered. His voice sounded sad. His eyes did not. Nurse Hae-in stood in the doorway watching. Her hands were folded. Her face was pale. She knew the flowers were not just flowers. She knew Do-yeon had not come only to mourn. But fear has a way of closing the mouth, and Hae-in's mouth stayed closed. The white orchids remained on the side table, beautiful, quiet, and watching everything. 2 nights later, Maya saw the report. It was not intentional. She was wiping the counter near the window when the file slid slightly open. A page shifted. Cold hospital light fell across the stamped paper. Maya did not understand medical language, but she understood time. The report said one thing. Her memory said another. She remembered when Dr. Kwan entered the room. She remembered because she had been standing outside with her cleaning cart. She remembered the sound of his shoes, the nurse beside him, the exact minute she had moved aside. But the brain death time on the report came before that. Maya froze. Her cloth stopped moving. She looked toward the closed door, then toward Tae-jun, then back at the file. Something was wrong. But what could she do with that? She was the cleaner, a foreign woman, a mother with overdue rent, a person people corrected before they listened to, so she closed the file gently. But she did not forget. At home, Lily's fever rose, not all at once, slowly, cruelly, the way fear rises in a mother's chest when she has already tried everything. Maya pressed a damp cloth to Lily's forehead, changed it, waited, changed it again. The thermometer did not show mercy. Lily coughed once, then curled around Benny. "Mama," she whispered. Maya leaned close. "I'm here, baby." But her voice almost broke, because Lily's breathing was no longer just weak. It was uneven, the kind of breathing that made Maya count. 1, 2, please, 3, please, 4. And in that small basement room, with rain tapping against the window, Maya realized she was running out of time. Then came the knock, hard, impatient. Maya looked toward the door and felt her stomach drop. Madame Choi stood outside the basement apartment in a padded coat, rent notebook in one hand, keys in the other. She did not shout. That made it worse. She only looked past Maya into the tiny room, toward the thin mattress, the damp wall, the sick child under the blanket. Then she said, "If you cannot pay, you cannot stay." Maya held Lily's blanket in both hands. Her throat tightened. She wanted to explain, to beg, to say her daughter was sick, to say she was trying, to say she had not crossed an ocean just to fail in a basement room. But some people do not hear pain unless it comes from someone important. So Maya swallowed the tears, nodded once, and closed the door gently. Behind her, Lily coughed again. This time, the sound did not stop quickly. While Maya was fighting fever in a basement, Park Do-yeon was watching the clock. Inside a private hospital administrative office, emergency authority papers lay on a dark table. His luxury watch caught the cold light. 6 a.m. was close. If Han Tae-jun remained legally brain dead, the transfer would move forward. Assets, accounts, security, loyalty, everything that belonged to the Winter Dragon would pass into Do-yeon's hands. Chief Jang stood near the door, stiff in his security uniform. Nurse Hae-in stood farther away, pale and silent. Do-yeon did not raise his voice. He did not have to. By 6, he said, there must be no confusion. Chief Jang nodded. Hae-in looked down, and outside the window, rain kept sliding down the glass like the building itself was trying to wash away the truth. Back in the basement apartment, Lily's chest began to fight, not breathe, fight. That was the moment Maya stopped thinking about rules. She wrapped Lily in a blanket, tucked Benny beneath her arm, pulled on her damp coat, and ran into the rain. The streets of Seoul blurred around her. Cars passed. People stared. No one stopped. Maya held her daughter against her chest and kept whispering, "Hold on, Lily, please hold on." Ahead of her, Han River Merce Medical Center glowed like a palace. Bright, clean, expensive, impossible. She knew the front desk would ask for paperwork. Insurance, payment, permission. She had none of those things. But a mother carrying a child who cannot breathe does not stop to ask the world whether she is allowed to save her. Maya did what invisible people know how to do. She used the back way, the service entrance. The door meant for laundry carts, food deliveries, cleaning staff, and people the important world did not want to see. She slipped inside with rain dripping from her hair. Her shoes left wet footprints on the floor. Above her, a security camera watched. Maya did not look up. She only held Lily tighter and moved. Past laundry bins, past pipes, past sleeping machines and fluorescent lights. The corridor was narrow, cold, industrial. Nothing like the polished private wing upstairs. But Maya knew the hospital's hidden paths. She knew the stairwell that avoided reception. She knew which door stuck when it opened. She knew when the night staff changed shifts. Because when people do not see you, you learn everything about the rooms they think you are too small to matter in. The private wing was silent, too silent. Room 1207 waited at the end of the corridor. Maya stopped outside the door with Lily in her arms. Her hands shook. Her coat was wet. Her daughter's face burned against her neck. She knew she was crossing a line. If anyone found her there with a sick child, she could lose her job. She could lose the tiny apartment. She could lose the last bit of control she had over her life. But Lily's breath broke again, and for a mother, that was the only permission she needed. Maya opened the door. Inside room 1207, everything was cold and blue. Han Tae-jun lay exactly where she had left him. Still, silent, beautiful in a frightening way. The black dragon tattoo curled along his neck. His tattooed hands rested against the white blanket. The machines breathed around him. And beside the bed, the white orchid arrangement stood quietly on the side table. Maya carried Lily inside and whispered. Just for a minute. She did not know who she was speaking to. The room, God, the dead man, herself. Maya lowered herself near the side of the room. She tried to keep Lily quiet, tried to think, tried not to panic. But Lily stirred weakly in her arms. Then something strange happened. The child turned her face toward Tae-jun. Not toward the door, not toward the monitors. Toward him. Her tiny hand reached from the blanket toward his tattooed hand. Maya froze. "No, baby," she whispered. But Lily kept reaching. Her breathing was still broken. Her face was hot. Her little fingers trembled in the air. And for reasons Maya could not understand, the child wanted the silent man, the feared man, the man everyone said was already gone. Maya was desperate, exhausted, terrified, and desperate mothers sometimes make decisions the world will judge later. But heaven understands immediately. She carefully lifted Lily onto the edge of the hospital bed, just for a moment, just high enough so the child could rest upright, just close enough so she could breathe. Lily's cheek touched the black hospital gown. Her ear settled near Tae-jun's chest. Her small hand gripped the fabric, and then her breathing changed. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Enough for Maya to hear air move through her daughter's lungs again. Enough for her own knees to almost give way. She covered her mouth. Oh, thank God. For a moment, room 1207 became still. The machines hummed. The rain tapped the glass. The child rested against the chest of a man declared dead. And Maya did not know whether she was committing a crime or witnessing mercy. But Han Tae-jun was not in room 1207. Not yet. He was somewhere far beneath the silence, a cold black place with no doors, no rain, no machines, no voice, only darkness. And inside that darkness, Do-yeon's whisper followed him. You should have stayed a legend. Tae-jun stood there like a man forgotten by his own body. He could not move, could not speak, could not return. Then, there was warmth, small, fragile, unfamiliar. A child's hand, a child's breath, a weight on his chest that did not feel like a burden. It felt like a reason. And somewhere inside the darkness, the dragon heard a heartbeat that was not his own. Back in room 1207, one of the monitors changed. Just a little. A line moved. A number shifted. A sound sharpened. Maya looked up. At first, she thought fear was tricking her. Then the machine moved again. The monitor beeped faster. Blue light flashed across Tae-jun's face. Lily remained still against him, calmer than she had been all night. Maya stepped closer to the screen, her lips parted. No, the room seemed to hold its breath. The orchids reflected the monitor light. The white blanket moved slightly. And the machine that had been announcing death began to tell a different. Something impossible was happening, and Maya was the only one there to see it. Then the door opened. Nurse Yoon Hae-in stepped inside. She froze. Her eyes went first to Lily, then to Tae-jun, then to the monitor. Her face emptied. What are you doing? Maya turned quickly. She couldn't breathe. Please, just wait. Hae-in looked at the screen again. Fear sharpened in her eyes. Take her off him. No, Maya said. The word surprised both of them. Hae-in rushed forward. You cannot put a child on him. He is under restricted care. Maya placed one arm protectively around Lily. Look at the monitor. I said take her off. Maya blocked her. Please, Maya begged. Something is happening. For a second, the two women stood frozen on either side of the child. One terrified of breaking the rules, the other terrified of losing her daughter. And then, Tae-jun's hand moved. Not a twitch, not a mistake. His tattooed fingers lifted from the blanket, weak, slow, but real. Hae-in froze. Maya stopped breathing. The nurse's mouth opened, and Han Tae-jun's eyes opened. The room changed. Not because he shouted. He did not. He barely had the strength to breathe. But his eyes were awake, dark, weak, furious, alive. Hae-in staggered backward. Maya held Lily close, unable to move. The nurse's mouth opened, and Han Tae-jun's hand rose just enough to stop the nurse from touching the child. His voice came out broken, rough, almost nothing. But the command inside it filled the room. Do not touch her. That was when the first scream came. And then the second, the machine alarm. And then footsteps exploded in the hallway. Dr. Kwon Sung-ho arrived with two medical staff behind him. He had signed the report, or at least, his name was on it. He entered expecting panic. He did not expect to see the dead man awake. He did not expect to see a sick child on his chest. And he did not expect the monitor to contradict everything written in the file. Dr. Kwon stared at the screen, then at Tae-jun, then at the report sitting on the counter. His face changed, not with joy, with fear, professional fear, moral fear. The fear of a man realizing his name may have been used to bury someone alive. He picked up the report, looked at the signature, looked at the time. His hand tightened on the paper. Then he whispered, "This is wrong." In the confusion, Nurse Hae-in slipped into the hallway. Her face was pale. Her breathing was shallow. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. The screen lit her eyes. She typed quickly. No one saw the words, but the message went straight to Park Do-yeon. Tae-jun is awake. For a moment, Hae-in stared at the message after it sent. There was guilt in her face. Fear, too. She had not meant to become the kind of person who helped bury a man alive. But people rarely become guilty all at once. Sometimes they say yes to one small fear, then another, then another, until the truth is bleeding in the room behind them, and they are still holding the phone. Tae-jun received the message in a private hospital office. Emergency authority papers were already waiting on the table. His luxury watch caught the light. 6 a.m. was close. For 1 second, his mask cracked. Not much, just enough. Then he looked at Chief Jang. The security chief stood beside a monitor showing service corridor footage. Maya was on the screen, carrying Lily, entering through the back way. Tae-jun pointed. His voice was calm again. Blame the woman. Chief Jang understood. Powerful men often do. Tae-jun did not need to explain the rest. Trespassing, endangering a restricted patient, bringing a child into a protected room, a foreign cleaner with no money, no lawyer, and no one important to defend her. It was not only a lie, it was a convenient lie. And convenient lies are the easiest for powerful rooms to believe. Minutes later, security stormed room 1207. Chief Jang entered first, dark uniform, badge, earpiece, hard jaw. Behind him came guards. Maya stood beside the bed holding Lily. Dr. Kwon tried to speak. Hae-in said nothing. Tae-jun watched from the bed, too weak to rise. Chief Jang pointed at Maya. You entered a restricted room with a child. You endangered a patient under protection. Maya shook her head. My daughter couldn't breathe. I didn't hurt him. Look at him. He woke up. But no one wanted to hear that. Not from her. Not from the cleaner. One guard moved toward her. Lily whimpered. Maya turned her body to shield her child. The whole room seemed to close around them. Machines, men, money, authority. All of it pressing against one mother who had only been trying to save her daughter. And from the bed, Han Tae-jun forced air into his lungs. His tattooed hand tightened against the sheet. His eyes locked onto Chief Jang. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he spoke again. Do not touch her. The room stopped. Not because Chief Jang respected Maya, not because the guards suddenly cared, but because Han Tae-jun had spoken. A man declared brain dead. A man powerful men were already preparing to replace. A man whose voice should never have returned. His eyes stayed on Chief Jang. Weak but dangerous, the security chief hesitated. That hesitation told Maya everything. Power recognizes power, even when it is lying in a hospital bed. Tae-jun's tattooed fingers tightened slightly near Lily. His breathing was shallow. His face was pale, but his command remained in the room like a blade. Maya looked at him in disbelief. This was the man everyone feared. The man people whispered about. The man called the Winter Dragon. And his first act after waking was not revenge. It was protection. Tae-jun swallowed with difficulty. His eyes moved from Chief Jang to Dr. Kwon to Nurse Hae-in, then finally to the door. Call Baek Jun-seo. The name moved through the room like a knife placed gently on glass. Dr. Kwon looked up. Chief Jang's face tightened. Nurse Hae-in lowered her eyes. Park Do-yeon was not in the room yet. But even his absence seemed to react, because everyone connected to power in Seoul knew Baek Jun-seo. He was not loud. He did not threaten. He did not need to. Baek was the man people called when secrets had gone too deep for police, too dangerous for lawyers, and too expensive for ordinary truth. Maya did not know the name, but she saw what it did to the people who heard it. And for the first time that night, the powerful looked afraid. Baek Jun-seo arrived before sunrise, silver-gray hair, old-fashioned glasses, gray wool coat, dark suit, black leather folder, no panic, no wasted words. He walked through the hospital lobby like a man who had entered dangerous buildings before and had never once needed to hurry. Rain streaked the glass behind him. The polished floor reflected his shoes. A few guards watched from a distance. Baek did not look at them first. He looked up at the security camera. Then down at the wet footprints near the service corridor. Then toward the private wing. He had been inside the building for less than 1 minute, and already he was reading the night like a confession. That was Baek Jun-seo's gift. He did not chase truth. He let lies show him where they were hiding. Park Do-yeon entered room 1207 with the face of a grieving brother. Perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect concern. Tae-jun, he said softly, you're awake. The room watched him. Maya held Lily closer, Doctor. Kwon stood near the medical report. Baek said nothing, and Han Tae-jun stared at Do-yeon with eyes that looked too weak to be alive. and too cold to be fooled. For one moment no one breathed. Do-yun's hand moved briefly toward his luxury watch. A small motion, almost nothing, but Baek saw it. Tae-jun saw it. Maya saw the way Do-yun's smile did not reach his eyes, and in the silence between the two men, the docs returned. The rain, the darkness, the arms that caught him, the whisper. You should have stayed a legend. Then Baek turned to Maya. Not like she was a criminal. Not like she was a cleaner. Like she was a witness. Tell me what you saw. Maya hesitated. She was used to people asking questions only to trap her. But Baek's voice was different. Calm, patient, precise. So Maya told him about the report, about the time that did not match, about Nurse Hayen's phone, about Do-yun bringing flowers, about Lily reaching toward Tae-jun, about the monitor changing, about everything that had happened while everyone else was too busy blaming her to listen. Baek did not interrupt. That alone nearly broke Maya, because sometimes the first form of justice is being heard. Then Maya pointed to the side table. The flowers, she said quietly. He brought them. Everyone looked. The white orchid sat there, elegant, innocent, and suddenly dangerous. Baek stepped closer to the orchid arrangement. He did not touch it at first. He studied it, the ceramic vase, the stem arrangement, the silver ribbon. Then he put on gloves and gently pulled the ribbon apart. A tiny black lens caught the light. Dr. Kwan inhaled sharply. Nurse Hayen's hand flew to her mouth. Do-yun did not move. That was how Baek knew. Guilty men often run. Powerful guilty men freeze. Baek held up the hidden device. A camera, he said, and likely audio. The room shifted. The first crack had appeared. Do-yun gave a small, controlled laugh. You think I planted a device in my brother's room? Baek looked at him. No, he said calmly. I think someone did. Nurse Hayen's phone was still in her hand. She tried to hide it, but fear had already made her fingers clumsy. Baek looked at the phone, then at her face. Who were you updating? Hayen said nothing. Her eyes moved once toward Do-yun. Only once. But once was enough. Do-yun's face remained calm. His eyes did not. He watched her like a warning. Hayen's breathing trembled. She had worn kindness like a uniform. Soft voice, gentle hands, careful smiles. But now, beneath the lights of room 1207, the mask began to split. Maya looked at her, not with surprise, with sadness. Because somewhere deep down, Maya had already known. Baek connected the hidden device to a tablet. The room waited. Blue light reflected across the evidence table. For several seconds, there was only static, then voices, not clear at first, then sharper. Do-yun's voice filled the room, calm, measured, cruel. If the cleaner is caught inside the room, blame her. The board will accept it. By 6, the transfer will be complete. Maya closed her eyes. Not in fear, in release, because for the first time, the truth had a sound. Dr. Kwan turned slowly toward Do-yun. Chief Jang looked away. Hayen began to cry silently, but Do-yun did not break, not yet. He adjusted his cuff. His voice remained smooth. A recording can be manipulated. Baek nodded slightly. Yes. Then he looked down at the tablet. The dockside file is corrupted. For a moment, the room lost air. The hospital conspiracy was there. The plan to blame Maya was there. The 6 a.m. transfer was there. But the dockside betrayal, the moment that proved Do-yun tried to murder Tae-jun, was missing. Or damaged, or hidden. Do-yun almost smiled. Almost. It was small, barely visible. But Tae-jun saw it. Maya saw it. Baek saw it too. Do-yun folded his hands in front of him. You have suspicion, he said. Not proof. The word settled heavily. Maya felt Lily move in her arms. The little girl was still weak, still feverish, still holding Benny. But her eyes were open, and she was not looking at Do-yun. She was looking at the flowers. The adults were arguing about files, evidence, authority, legality. But Lily was looking at the orchids, the damaged white petals, the silver ribbon, the tiny place where light blinked once, then disappeared. She raised one small hand. Blinking flower, she whispered. The room went quiet. Maya looked down at her daughter. What, baby? Lily pointed again. The flower blinked. Baek turned slowly. He looked at the ribbon, then closer. Inside the folded silver fabric, hidden behind a tiny seam, was a backup storage chip. Do-yun's face changed, not much, but enough. Baek removed the chip carefully, connected it. The room waited again. This time, there was no static, Rain, dock, wind, engines humming. Then Tae-jun's voice, faint and wounded, Do-yun, and then Park Do-yun's voice, close, clear, unmistakable. You should have stayed a legend. Silence followed. Not empty silence. The kind of silence that has weight, the kind that fills a room when lies run out of places to hide. By dawn, the emergency boardroom was already full. Executives, lawyers, security chiefs, men who had spent the night preparing to move power from a hospital bed to Park Do-yun's hands. The emergency authority papers sat at the center of the polished table. Do-yun entered like a man attending his own coronation. His luxury watch caught the morning light. 6 o'clock was close. He looked at the board and said, "We all understand what must be done." No one in that room had seen room 1207. No one had seen Lily on Tae-jun's chest. No one had seen the monitor change. And no one knew that inside a damaged silver ribbon, a child had found the truth. Then the boardroom doors opened. Han Tae-jun entered in a wheelchair, weak, pale, dressed in a dark medical robe over the black hospital gown. The dragon tattoo still curled along his neck. His tattooed hands rested on the blanket over his lap. Behind him stood Baek Jun-seo. Beside him was Dr. Kwan. And behind them, Maya carried Lily, the cleaner, the child, the two people no one in that room had expected to matter. Do-yun's face held for 1 second, then cracked, just enough. The boardroom fell silent, not because they understood everything, but because a dead man had just entered the room before they could divide his kingdom. Tae-jun did not speak first. Baek did. He placed the hidden device on the table. Then the damaged silver ribbon. Then the backup chip. Then he played the recording. This time, every powerful man in the room heard it. The plan, the false report, the transfer deadline, the instruction to blame Maya, and finally, the dockside betrayal. "You should have stayed a legend." Do-yun stood at the head of the table while his own voice destroyed him. No one defended him. Not one. That is the thing about powerful rooms. People will follow a liar while he is winning, but when truth enters with proof, they suddenly remember they were never close. Nurse Haein broke first. She stepped forward, shaking. Her phone was placed on the table beside the evidence. "I sent the updates," she whispered. "My brother owed money. They said they would hurt him. I didn't know they would." Her voice failed. Maya looked at her. There was anger in her. Of course there was. But there was also something else. Understanding, because fear can make people do terrible things, but fear does not erase the damage. Chief Jang was exposed next. Deleted footage. False reports, restricted access changes. Do-yun's clean plan began falling apart piece by piece. Investigators moved toward him. For the first time, Park Do-yun looked at Han Tae-jun without a mask. No brotherhood, no concern, no loyalty, only hatred. "You were supposed to die," he said. Tae-jun looked at him calmly. "I did." His voice was weak, but every person in the boardroom heard it. "Then a child reminded me why I should not stay dead." Do-yun was taken away before the sun fully rose. Chief Jang lowered his head. Haein wept quietly. Dr. Kwan began the process of correcting the medical record. And Maya stood there holding Lily, still waiting for someone to blame her again. But no one did. Tae-jun turned his wheelchair slightly toward her. His face was still pale, his body still weak, but his eyes were no longer empty. "You talk to me," he said. Maya swallowed. "I didn't know you could hear." Tae-jun looked at Lily. The little girl held Benny against her chest. "No," he said softly, "but I think something in me did." 3 months later, the building did not look like the underworld. It did not look like a palace. It was clean, warm, open. A children's emergency clinic in Seoul where poor families were treated before anyone asked about payment. On the glass doors, simple letters read, "Lily Children's Emergency Clinic." Maya stood near the entrance, helping a worried mother carry her child inside. She was no longer invisible there, not because she had become rich, not because the world had suddenly become fair, but because someone had finally built a place where people like her were seen before they broke. Lily was stronger now, still small, still carrying Benny. But her cheeks had color again, and her laughter no longer sounded like something fighting through pain. Han Tae-jun stood near the window with a cane in one hand. The black dragon still curled along his neck. The tattoos were still there. The past had not disappeared. Men like him do not become innocent overnight, but power can change direction. A hand that once made people afraid can become a hand that opens a hospital door. Lily walked up to him and touched the dragon tattoo on his neck without fear. Maya started to stop her, but Tae-jun only smiled faintly. For the first time, the dragon did not look like a warning. It looked like a shelter. And that is the lesson. Never underestimate the person who still has a heart when the whole room has gone cold. Because sometimes the one everyone ignores is the one who sees the truth first. The cleaner, the mother, the child, the quiet person in the corner, the one with no title, no money, no power, but enough kindness to speak to someone the world has already buried. So tell me, would you have helped Maya that night? Would you have opened the door? Would you have believed the cleaner or listened to the men in expensive suits? And if you have ever been treated like you were invisible, only for your kindness to matter later, write this in the comments. They didn't see my heart. If this story reminded you that quiet people often carry the deepest strength, subscribe for more stories like this. Because sometimes justice does not arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives holding a sick child in the middle of the night.